First things first, Mal, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for the invitation. It's really great to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Now, before we get into the new album, I'd like to jump back a little bit, especially when it comes to your kind of musical background, because what was the first kind of spark that got you into music? Maybe it was a song, maybe it was seeing somebody perform live. What was it that kind of got you obsessed with music?
Wow. I mean, it goes back a while. I can remember that like when I was really a kid, I did like my first rap songs with some guys I used to play soccer with like
Mm,
back in the days. But we never released it because the lyrics I wrote were kind of explicit and I kind of felt ashamed to perform that like in front of other people. Like this puberty kind of music.
sure.
And then it actually stopped and like years later I I heard like a song that was like Common featuring Pharrell Williams, and the song was called Universal Mind Control. And it was kind of weird for that time because there were so many synths in it, and that wasn't so common in rap back then. And I just took a instrumental and wrote lyrics on it, and I was hooked ever since.
Okay. Well, but I find that interesting that you picked that song in particular because have you always been interested then in more than just pure hip hop in a way that you always looked for kind of the hip hop that had, for instance, synths or kind of these other elements to it?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of forced to do that because where I grew up, it was a small town, and people weren't like into hip hop that much.
Mm,
Like anywhere I went, there was like they were playing like rock music, indie music, and it just kind of entered my DNA somehow. And I like later then went to the hip hop journey myself, and I really started to dig. But already then, my ear was like I wanted to have something different. I wanted to have different variations than the common thing. And like the first hip hop group I really enjoyed was were the Fugees,
mm,
and that was already this kind of weird combination. Like you had a lot of guitars in it and samples. And you also had like a singer with Lauryn Hill, who was
yeah.
also a rapper, plus Wyclef, who plays guitar, raps and sings, and Braswell with his deep voice. So that was already like kind of this combination that triggered me. And it's just kind of funny to see me ending up in Shark Tank now, where we're also three people, and it's kind of a mix between rap and singing. But I mean, it's totally different, but still, the constellation kind of reminds me of that, and I didn't really notice it, but it's just some things you then later think,
Mm.
okay, well, maybe somehow it came from there.
And I find it interesting. You say obviously when you're very young and you start to write raps or rhymes, it's gonna be juvenile because it's the age that you are in. Once you kind
Yeah.
of revisited that and started putting thoughts to paper, what did you notice and what did you get out of kind of putting your thoughts onto paper and kind of performing them?
Um, I thought a lot about myself, first of all, but then you kind of think a bit out of yourself,
Hmm.
kind of get connected to something that's more than yourself, I would say. And sometimes you just write lyrics and it's just a feeling and you don't even really know what it means at that point. And as you said, you just review it and it's still like that. Like if we do a song, maybe in that moment I don't really even know what it means, but then I listen to the song like I don't know, 2 months later, and it's like, ah, okay, that's what I meant because
Mm.
now I'm somewhere else in my phase in my development as a person, and now I can really go back and understand what I meant there. And maybe at
Right.
that time it was too much in my feelings to even recognize it. And yeah, you just think a lot of about things that are going on, and you're just kind of sensitive to everything that's going on.
And with the debut album being released already 2 years ago now, then very quickly, what are your thoughts on that album? Because as you mentioned, you're a different person now. You've grown and you've developed. So how do you look at that first album?
I really still enjoy it. It was a nice experience, and so like a totally innocent approach of doing music because we never thought of ourselves as a band or as people who would ever tour and play concerts like in this constellation. I mean, Katrin was already playing with a band, and Marco already had his project, and I was just like, okay, let's try and do some songs because that's just how it started. We said like, we don't have that much time. Let's meet maybe every couple of weeks and let's get a song out like in 2 3 hours. We don't have more time, and that was basically the approach. We just went there and we just did it, and it happened in that moment. And then when we saw like the first song, there's this Austrian radio station called FM4, and
Mm.
it was just like the first release that the three of us did was number one in the charts, and so we just did an EP, and from there it went to doing an album, and because that was also during the like pandemic time with all the
Yeah.
lockdowns, so really any other outlets in that time to kind of get out our emotions and
Mhm.
thoughts apart from like the places we live. And so we just said, okay, let's meet every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Let's get tested before that, and then we have like 4 hours time or 3 hours time, and we just did that constantly. And after some months, we had an album done. That was kind of the crazy process.
If you compare kind of the way you worked and how free it was, and I think one of the things I read in the bio as well is it's all about having fun. Just as long as you are having fun, then whatever music comes out, that will be okay. So if we look at the process for the second album, then what changed? Because as you say, well, it was in the middle of the pandemic era, kind of that the band started getting formed. Obviously, now it's a lot better. You get to spend a lot more time together, I suppose. And how has that kind of changed the way you worked for the second album?
We started to trust each other more than we trusted
Mm.
each other before. That's one point because like I mean I knew Marco for some years before, but we didn't meet that regularly.
Yeah.
And Katrin, actually, I met her the first time after she already recorded 2 songs for our project because I didn't have time to be in the sessions, and I just knew her voice from some videos, and then Marco always sent me the tracks they did, like the parts that were still missing, and I mean I was blown away by the voice, but I didn't know that if we would like each other to meet in person, and that kind of worked out, and then the second album was like, we did these tours, we played a lot of festivals together, we spent a lot of time in cars, in tour
Mm.
buses, and did a lot of interviews with each other, did all these videos, so we already shared so many experiences with each other, and then we actually started the first song of the second album like maybe 1 or 2 days after the first album was
Okay.
released. We just said, okay, nice, it's out. Hey, let's write a song. And then kind of we followed this process for 3 songs, and then we just said, okay, look, we're doing the same thing we did the first album. So this was the first time actually when we really sat together, the three of us on a chair on a table, and said, okay, maybe we should try something else. Maybe we should say not everything goes. And so we kind of try to define a story that kind of makes this album something special for us. And for us, it was really important to have like kind of a personal development
Mm.
um, embedded in this album. So we wrote skits, and we asked a friend of ours to speak those skits for us for her to be the embodiment of the album, and for a person who is kind of getting like independent, you know, like if you move out of your parents' house
Sure.
for the first time and you're just like free and you can do whatever you want, and then maybe something bad happens for the first time and you're just like, oh no, I have to do this alone, and maybe you're intimidated and you want to go back to where it was, but then you kind of hang on to it, and you manage to go through these hard, difficult phases. And so we wanted a person to be that,
Mm.
and not just the album. And the album is like every song is like one aspect of this development.
Kind of what it is to be a young adult, I suppose, in the modern world.
Yeah.
So before we get into maybe more specific things, so what is it like for the three of you? Because you all come from different musical backgrounds. You have different ideas, I suppose, about the music and about the things that you want to talk about. So how do you find common ground between the three of you?
The weird thing is that we kind of somehow have the same taste.
Okay.
It's so oddly often happens that there's like this band nobody has ever heard of, and then we meet each other and we share kind of what we're just listening to on Spotify or whatever. And there's so many similar bands and so many similar sounds, although we come from different backgrounds. And the thing is that Marco really listens to a lot of hip hop too, so he
Okay.
really listened to a lot of MF Doom. That's what you are like, all that Odd Future stuff,
Mm.
especially Earl Sweatshirt.
Okay.
Um, and I also listen to a lot of indie music, and Katrin listens to like everything. She's like all over the place. She introduced me to Turnstile and stuff like
Mm.
that. And then what makes it something special in the studio is that all these different ideas come together, and that we're really open for ideas. You know, Marco is really open to ideas when it comes to the production, or you say, hey, could you put slap a reverb on this thing, or turn the delay a bit down, or maybe we can chop these drums and copy them like 4 times, you know, Pharrell Williams stuff. And Catherine is also really creative. She would just grab the guitar and we would just put together all these ideas, because for us it's more about to get the best ideas out there. And sometimes it's not even your idea. Sometimes I also get influenced by Catherine, who
Okay.
says, "Hey, look, this might be a nice rap line, maybe." And I would just take that one line and I will write something, and I will maybe have a melody and she would just sing it. So I can't really explain why it works that way. I just think that we somehow have a similar taste, and that the different backgrounds just make it more diverse.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, to be open to each other, I think that's the most important to be flexible in that sense.
Yeah.
Let's get into a couple of songs then. If we take, for instance, Guapo, which I suppose is a little bit more hip hop orientated, if I can call
Yeah.
it that. What was the origins of that song now? Was it just a line, or did you have just something that you wanted to say? Well, how did that come about?
That was like good that you asked, because that was the weirdest, not the weirdest, but it was like some of the processes that we would have never did in the first
Okay.
album. That was just me being at home, looping some stuff on Ableton and writing lyrics, and just recording them into my laptop, even without a microphone, and bouncing it out and sending it to Catherine and Marco on WhatsApp. And they just digged it, and we went to the studio and did this full song around it. And it was kind of funny because I I airdropped the project to Marco.
Mm.
He opened the project and he saw like the effect chain on my voice that I did. He would just like laughing his ass off, and he even made a picture and sent it into like a producer group because he said, no, nobody's ever gonna believe that anybody did a chain like that. And of course, he changed everything because it didn't make sense what I did. But and at that time, I was really listening to this Pusha T album a lot.
Okay.
Is it Dry Yet? The last album he put out where he just had two producers, Kanye West and Pharrell Williams. And I kind of knew that I couldn't do a song about pushing coke. So I did a song about like enjoying myself, cruising along the beach and maybe have a smoke break there and now. And yeah, and in the studio, I just went weird with Catherine's voices that she did and all those harmonies. Just wanted to
Right.
make it really funny.
No, and then what I find interesting then, because you mentioned those stages of development that you wanted to personify on the album in a way. What stage is this for you? The is it kind of the more relaxed phase of being a young adult?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the, yeah, that's the phase where you think nothing can happen to you and you're invincible. And even though you have like big problems, you still don't care because you just want to live in that moment. I think that's just that phase where you don't care about anything. And if you have like a big minus in your bank account, you don't care. As long as you can go out there and have some fun and you will find a way to do stuff. In the long way, maybe not the best way to go on, but for that moment, I think it's just beautiful.
No, but I think it's important because that balance and get by is kind of this very positive, self-assuring message.
Mhm.
So, but this balance between all the hectic things that are going on in the world and the doubts and the anxiety and the uncertainty, and then to have on the other hand kind of the confidence that everything will turn out okay and to kind of go on enjoy your life. How do you kind of balance those two things in music and for yourself personally as well?
I don't even know. I just think I have phases. I just think I have better days and worse days.
Fair
Uh,
enough.
and yeah, sometimes you're really kind of devastated. But I mean, as long as you have people around you who you can trust and who you love and who hopefully love you back, I think everything is not that bad. But I can just speak for myself. I mean, I've been in phases where I was really devastated and where I didn't know what I did or where I was kind of lost and doing stuff that wasn't good for me. But you know, you kind of develop and you hopefully meet people or you just take the time to take care of yourself and maybe not participate in all those activities that might not be so helpful for yourself and just try to recenter. And I think it's really important to, especially when you live like in a city. I mean, Vienna is not a super large city, but it's still a city. And if
Sure.
you're always between these concrete walls, kind of things get small, and you just really feel the hectic. And if you just take time once in a while to just enter a tram line or a train, and even like 1 hour ride, or not even maybe a half an hour ride, and you somewhere where you have some nature around you, it just changes your perspectives on everything.
Yeah, I think taking care of your mental health, I think, is very important these days to kind of get out of the relentlessness of the city. I've
Yeah,
noticed that when I moved out of Amsterdam, it kind of calmed me down a little bit as well.
yeah. I think
Um,
Amsterdam is an even crazier city. So yeah, and
but,
Vienna is still kind of boring.
one thing I like about kind of where the world is at even is that it doesn't really matter anymore where you're from if you want your music to get out there. We have the internet now. You can reach kind of every corner of the world, and you have done so quite well in your own region. And is it fair to say that you're now looking towards kind of more international appeal, or to see how you can reach other people?
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it because we never planned anything and we never
Mm.
knew who will even listen to the music. Till now, I don't know who's listening to the, and like this first song we did, the three of us together, this Washed Up, it was just people just liked it. People just liked it. People just shared it. And then kind of, I think the algorithm noticed that people like it. And then it just got, I think, spread it even more. And right now, I mean, we're going on a Austria, Germany, Switzerland tour. But I think we'll have one or two dates outside of our region.
Okay.
Because we're still getting, I mean, as a live band, we're already, I think the chemistry is cool because it's five of us on stage. And yeah, we're just trying to be at the places right now where we know people are there. But there are other countries where we're gonna do shows. I can't say it now because I don't know if it's already announced or not.
Fair enough.
Um, I mean, probably we'll be somewhere you lived before soon. So that's one thing. I think people can guess now if they listen to it. And but I think our management is gonna does these kind of plannings because for us right now it's just about the excitement to have the album out because we already finished the album in summer. So, and then you had all these videos, and you're just excited about the next video or the next photo shoot or the next live session. And now it's just about playing gigs again. And yeah, we will try one or two cities outside of Austria, Switzerland, outside of the German-speaking
Sure.
countries, and then we'll see how it goes.
Well, best of luck with that. Last question, the album title. When did that kind of become the album title?
That was at an airport, or no, where was it? It was in Hamburg. Yeah,
Okay.
actually, it was in Hamburg. I think we played I think Reeperbahn Festival, and everybody was asking us if we already have a name for the album title, and we obviously didn't have the name because that's not the first thing you think about. So we just went like through the songs in our minds, and we just figured out that acting funny kind of describes the album like the best because uh, there's two sides of it for us. You could kind of just be funny and make people laugh because you're cracking jokes, or you could just be in a situation where you really wasn't yourself, where you were kind of acting funny or weirdly, or where other people kind of made you feel strange about yourself. And we just thought this is a name that that you can list that you can hear, and like depending on your mood, can describe your mood. Like if you have a good day, maybe acting funny is right for you. If you have a bad day, it could even be right for you. So we didn't want it to be so like 100% one thing. We always want people to how you say, to listen to the songs or hear the names of projects we put out there and can kind of get into it themselves and can kind of figure it out for themselves because it's not just for us. So it's nice to have this thought that maybe people will just interpret it for like in a totally different way than we thought about it.
Well, I have to ask them one last question. Is there one interpretation about one of your songs that you've heard that was really interesting or that kind of sticks out to you? And because it doesn't have to be necessarily from the new album, can be anything.
Oh, yeah, somebody last week asked me about the song Guapo, and she asked me that like if we wrote that song because I think I'm so pretty.
Hey, there you go.
That actually makes no sense. That's like the first time when something really didn't make sense at all, like a question to a song. Most of the time, people kind of kind of listen to the lyrics and then they understand what we meant. And obviously, this is more about like living a nice life or having a nice vacation and not feeling like you're the prettiest dude. So that was kind of weird.
No,
Yeah.
but again, that's I think the beauty of music, that people can find whatever they want to find in it. So that's always interesting. Mal, may I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thanks so much, Robin. It was really nice.